How did Kim Jong Un get into a position he was never meant to get into? Wait until you find out the real reason why he got rid of his uncle. Just looking at the line of descent, Kim Jong Un was never meant to be in his position at all. The eldest son usually takes the prime position of crown prince. His father, Kim Jong Il, was the heir apparent himself at the time of Kim Jong Un's birth. You know, the guy who wore black sunglasses all the time? The person who had ruled North Korea since 1994 until Kim Jong Un came into power? As the son of a dictator, even if it was from one of the poorer countries in the world, he enjoyed luxury growing up. Kim Jong Un's mom was opera singer Ko Young-hee, who had two other children. Kim Jong Il reportedly took a liking to Kim Jong Un, noting that he saw in the youth a temperament similar to himself. Despite his high standard of living, he was isolated for a long period of time away from both country, family, and peers. Kim Jong Un, when he was growing up, didn't have anybody else to play with. Earlier in 2020, Kim Jong Un turned 36 years old. At least officially, according to the US, there's some controversy about his actual age. North Korean authorities and state-run media have stated that Kim's birth date was January 8, 1982. But South Korean intelligence officials believe the actual date is a couple years later. So, what's the reasoning behind the different dates? It's thought that Kim's official birth year was changed for symbolic reasons. 1982 marks 70 years after the birth of his grandfather, Kim Il-sung, and 40 years after the official birth of his father, Kim Jong Il. Regardless, he's one of the youngest leaders in the world and definitely one of the world's youngest dictators. One story about Kim Jong Un comes from his past sushi chef, Kenji Fujimoto. He went to make sushi for the royal household. At the time, Kim Jong Un seemed to have kind of taken a liking to him. He saw him as someone interesting and eccentric and spent a lot of time with him. They would fly kites together and go fishing together, and according to Fujimoto, he would catch fish from the boat, and then Kim Jong Un would come along and take the fishing pole off him. He did that just to brag about catching the fish and taking credit for it. This is a clear indication that Kim Jong Un was somebody who was used to having his own way at a very early age. He attended an English language international school in Switzerland. Kim Jong Un spent several years living and going to school in Switzerland under a false identity. He was reportedly known as Pak Un by his classmates. Obviously, all this has never been officially confirmed, but his former classmates definitely can recognize him. His former classmates describe him as a quiet student who spent most of his time at home. Apparently, he was quite normal. He had a good sense of humor and really got along with people, even with students from countries that were enemies of North Korea. Politics was apparently a taboo subject at school. They would just argue about sports instead, such as basketball. And that was another thing Kim Jong Un loved. He was a big Chicago Bulls fan because of MJ. He reportedly had posters of Jordan all over his walls during his Swiss school days. And although Kim Jong Un was overweight and only 5'6", he was a decent basketball player according to his classmates. Former classmate Nikola Kovacevic described him as a fiercely competitive player and very explosive. Kim was the playmaker who made things happen. Who can forget about him and Dennis Rodman's friendship when he got older? But not so fast. Not all classmates had the same image. According to other classmates, they said that Kim was embarrassed to answer questions in class and frequently lashed out because he struggled to speak in German. Kim was supposedly introverted, avoided girls, and lived in Adidas tracksuits with Nike sneakers. João Michelo was a Portuguese student who sat next to Kim at school. He said that he and Kim bonded because neither of them were, quote, particularly academic. There was this idea that Kim would have been a different kind of leader because he had been exposed to Western culture. He would have had an idea of what it was like to live in a free world and a liberal democracy, so he couldn't help but be a reformer. That ended up being nothing close to the truth. After his time in Switzerland, Kim Jong Un went back to North Korea to study at Kim Il-sung National War College in Pyongyang from 2002 to 2007. His father ran a military-first policy, and he introduced him and his older brother to the military field inspections around 2007. So, what happened? Kim Jong Un was the youngest of 3 sons. He had 2 older brothers. His oldest brother was a half-brother named Kim Jong Nam. His other full brother is Kim Jong Chol. And of course, we can't forget mentioning his ever-popular younger sister named Kim Yo Jong. Kim Jong Un basically had 2 brothers to get ahead of. Kim Jong Nam was the eldest son of Kim Jong Il. From roughly 1994 to 2001, he was considered to be the next in line to his father. But the problem for him was he was just seen as basically not serious enough for anything and just too goofy. The last straw for him was embarrassing the regime in 2001. He was caught by officials attempting to visit Disneyland in Tokyo with a false passport. So how did it end for him? Kim Jong Nam was eventually exiled from North Korea in 2003. Harsh family, right? Well, when your family exiles you, you know they're already crazy. So he made the mistake of not keeping his mouth shut. He was an occasional critic of his family's regime, and sometimes he would be headline news for the disparaging comments he would make. And he was providing information to the CIA. He was giving information about the regime to the CIA for cash. He would meet them in various locations in Southeast Asia. Once Kim Jong Un came into power, he decided to take care of the situation with some makeshift assassins. Kim Jong Nam was basically taken care of in February 2017 in Malaysia by 2 girls who were told they were a part of a TV prank. This was likely a long con put on by North Korea, who went to extreme lengths to not make it look like they did it. Okay, so the first brother was because the regime didn't like him. What happened with the second brother, Kim Jong Chol? Pretty much the same thing. Kim Jong Chol did seem to start off okay. Back in February 2003, state leaders began making moves to raise his profile. The Korean People's Army began a propaganda campaign in support of Kim Jong Chol. Kim Jong Chol, despite his young age, had emerged with the army's backing to be a serious contender to succeed his father. But it wasn't before long that his dad wasn't happy with him. He was deemed weak and unmanly. Kim Jong Il didn't think Kim Jong Chol had it in him to become a dictator. Another reason was that, given his own reputation as a dictator, he didn't want to establish someone with more lenient ideologies to take over. Today, Kim Jong Chol is no longer involved in politics. Apparently, he's leading a quiet life in Pyongyang where he plays guitar in a band. And he hasn't been saying anything bad about the regime. Smart guy, right? So with his brothers out of the way, this pushed Kim Jong Un forward as the front runner to succeed Kim Jong Il. Another thing going for him was how much he looked like his grandfather, Kim Il-sung, in appearance, haircut, and mannerisms. So much so that rumors had circulated that Kim Jong Un had received plastic surgery to enhance the resemblance even further. Even though it seems that Kim Jong Un did have the capabilities to be the dictator his father wanted him to be, how much did he actually want to be a dictator? Would he have rather just lived a normal life somewhere abroad? Is there a Kim Jong Un living in Switzerland in another dimension? How did Kim Jong Un go from a chubby kid who loved basketball to a ruthless dictator? Kim Jong Un benefited from the same kind of movement that had brought his father Kim Jong Il to power. Apparently, from a young age, he had shown signs that earned him the tag of a quote-unquote military genius. Of course, North Korea finally responded and called the allegations completely made up. Who knows? Maybe this was something that North Korea had made up. They make up so much stuff anyways. But what did actually happen is this. Kim Jong-un's rise up through the ranks was fast. Even though he had little military experience in the military, he got promoted. This was most likely because Kim Jong-il's health was rapidly deteriorating and he wanted Kim Jong-un to get the fast-track course on how to run the empire. Kim Jong-un was made a 4-star general, deputy chairman of the Central Military Commission of the Workers' Party, and a member of the Central Committee. Kim Jong-il eventually passed because of a heart attack back in December of 2011. The young Kim Jong-un inherited the world's 4th largest military, a nuclear arsenal, and absolute control over North Korea. He became the youngest head of state in the world at the age of 30. Among Kim Jong-un's most trusted advisors were his aunt, Kim Jong-hui, and her husband, Jak Sun-taek. The couple was reportedly ordered by Kim Jong Il to control the country's military and help him consolidate his position as he gained more experience. Their most important job, it seems, was to push his role as a powerful figure among some generals who didn't trust him. But here was the crazy thing. Apparently, he grew to not trust his aunt and uncle at all. In December 2013, Kim Jong Un had his uncle charged with having tried to take control of North Korea through a military coup. His dad was right. He did have the qualities to be a ruthless dictator. There were reports that Kim Jong Un continued to purge the rest of his uncle's family. He didn't have much affection for the people he had gotten rid of. His uncle had always been aligned with his half-brother's line of the family. He remained close to Kim Jong Un's half-brother Kim Jong Nam even after he went into exile. The worst thing his uncle did was probably continuing to treat Kim like a child even after he took power. Getting rid of his uncle sent out a very powerful message to anybody else in the regime who had ideas of taking over. And when it came to getting rid of his half-brother, there's no evidence that they had ever even met each other. So for Kim, he was just another rival that could be disposed of. According to Anna Fifield, author of the book The Great Successor, The Divinely Perfect Destiny of Brilliant Comrade Kim Jong Un is extremely tactful today. His number one goal now is figuring out how to stay in power. All he cares about is keeping his family in charge of North Korea. Every decision he makes and everything he does revolves around that top priority. Contrary to the stereotype of a crazy, nuclear-armed toddler, Kim Jong Un has grown to be a very strategic and calculating man. He's now focused on the country's economy. According to her, he's focusing on the economy not because he cares about the North Korean people, but rather he needs a growing economy to remain in control of his country for decades to come. Watch this next video to find out how one guy scammed almost $40 million.